According to the online journal, in the article, an overview of school violence causes and current statistics. School shootings that occurred in 1992 resulted in 56 deaths. This ignited an ongoing trend of serious violent incidents at all levels of the United States educational system. I'm here to talk to you today about the negative effects that the public education system has on youth. The 3 points I will be talking about today is the foundation of the public school system, the educational teaching methods that they use, and then negative peer pressure. In our current public school, let me go to that. Okay, so my first point is the public educational foundation. I'm sure you're all wondering where public school actually originated. It actually started in the 1830s, and the idea of the public school system was actually started by the socialists. And according to the article, What About Public School, from the Old Schoolhouse magazine for homeschoolers, Dr. Bruce Short says, the socialists, as always, saw a government school system that they would control as an instrument for making society in their image, using it as a tool for promoting the notions of social improvement. The public school system was actually founded by a man named John Dewey, and now John Dewey was also a socialist, and he believed that he could use the tool of the public school system to create, to mold the minds of children to become perfect little socialists, if you will. He kind of used that as something he'd get to, and he started implementing that and not forcing it, but really pushing the idea on a lot of children's and families, and it definitely worked beyond his wildest dream because pretty much everyone, goes to a public school. It's a big thing. Next, I'm going to talk about the public educational teaching methods that the public school uses. Public schools teach that they teach the irrelevance of God as a fundamental doctrine. Kind of the whole theme is there is no God. If there is a God, he doesn't matter and who cares. They teach that students need to have open-mindedness and tolerance, but they have absolutely no tolerance for the Christian faith whatsoever. Another issue kind of with the education is there's kind of like a lower educational standard. Let me give you an example of this. I know for when students are taught to read, they are taught to read in something that's called a whole language. It's when you're learning to read, they give you a word like hat, and instead of working through the word by the sounds, like you would if you were learning through phonics, you memorize the word. So when you see the word, you have to remember it and memorize it. You don't just like work through the word as it comes. Joe Turtel, in the article, What About Public School, from the one before, says that the whole language merely asks the child to guess what the word is, rather than having the teacher explain to the child how to use phonics to rules out and sound out the letters. As a result of this teaching, a lot of students are poor readers and generally just don't like to read at all. My next point is negative peer pressure. I know this is something that people always talk about, but it's so essential in understanding why public school has negative effects. Children go to school at least 8 hours of the day, and they're away from their parents, at least 8 hours a day. Parents are at school, and children are in the public school system with and are influenced by a bunch of other children. So basically, children raise children to an extent. Also, children are shaped by their schooling experiences. National Institute on Drug Abuse says in 2008, 56% of Americans aged 12 and older had used alcohol at least once in 30 days prior to being surveyed. 23.3% had binged, and 23.3% drank heavily. I have a 13-year-old sister, and if she was in the public school system, these would be the kind of things she'd be exposed to. Also, another quote from the same institute says that in 2008, 453,000 Americans aged 12 and older had abused heroin at least once a year prior to beginning surveying. That's 12, at the age of 12, children using heroin. 9% of 8th graders, 10% 8% of 10th graders and 7% of 12th graders used heroin at least once in the past year. This is also just like a chart, another chart of violence in school. As you can see, the 10th graders, 13% are verbally abused, not to talk about the social and the physical abuse of bullying that kids go through. In conclusion, I just want to talk about, we talked about the educational foundation and how it's based wrong on socialism, the public school education methods, and the negative peer pressure that kids face in public schools. As Christians, we should not be blind to statistics. We should know what's going on. The public school system are not neutral toward Christianity. It is a frontal assault on Christian faith. Also, it is an assault on the students' minds and faith. When this happens, we begin to lose our kids spiritually and intellectually when we ignore these assaults. Ephesians 6:4 talks about raising up a child in the Lord and the way he should go. As a parent, we have our own kids. One of our biggest and the most important responsibilities we will have is raising up our child the right way. And the public school system totally contradicts what we're trying to do as Christians with our kids. And your kids are in this system 8 hours of the day, and deprogramming them at night is kind of a hard thing to do. It totally counteracts what we're trying to do. We must always keep in mind that children are always shaped by their education.